I have the singular pleasure of introducing my friend, Bob Waxman. I feel honored and privileged to call you my friend, Bob. Bob is a gerontologist. That's the right way of saying that word. She's a leadership coach and was the person that coined the term Middlescence. So that's a word that we use an awful lot here at the Modern Elder Academy. So she's also given us vocabulary. Bob has been one of our most popular teachers year after year here at the Academy, one of our first teachers and most popular teachers. And I think despite the sort of the rich content and everything that Bob brings to the table, she also has a unique ability to be 100% present with people, and really has mastered the art of listening and being available. So Bob, it is just an honor to have you here with us.
Thank you, thank you. On the theme of listening, I want to make one clarification about what you said. Oftentimes people will say that I coined the term Middlescence. What I've done is associated with a definition about it's like a second adolescence, but with wisdom. It's a stage, we'll talk about this, we're supposed to go through. So I've put a line in the sand that it's time to name the stage, but I didn't make up the word Middlescence out of thin air. Colleagues of mine, Gail Sheehy, Ken Dykewald, Ken talked about it a number of years ago in a slightly different way, but I didn't make up the term Middlescence. I'm just using it in this way, calling it a new life stage. So I just want to make that clarification. But I'm thrilled to be here with all of you and to talk about my journey and what I've learned and hopefully what can be in service of helping you right now, and share this energy work around how to cultivate your energy during this time where you may be sputtering, you may be blah. If you took the quiz, you know what I mean. If you didn't take the quiz, I think we can just put in the chat the link. So thank you. Thrilled to be here with my friend, Jeff, and all of you, new friends.
So Bob, let's just start with how you got into this work. Let's back in from the past and move to the present. How did you arrive to be this gerontologist?
Okay, strap in, everybody. It's a long story that I'll make short, because a lot of times I meet people and they say, wow, you have a master's in gerontology. First of all, what is it? It's the study of adult development, because we're used to your baby, your child, your tween, your teenager, young adult, and then we assume it's like a flat line, or maybe it's all going up, and then we fall off the cliff, if we're lucky, have a quick end. But it's not. We continue to develop every decade, and it's fascinating. So that's what gerontology, the study of adult development and aging, is, from a demographic, physiological, sociological, psychological, cultural, economic, all those perspectives. But the reason people think I'm so smart and give me credit, because right now it's in vogue, right? This whole idea of being a modern elder, and we can talk about what's the relationship between Middlescence and being a modern elder. And I am not all that smart. I'm here to tell you that, because actually I was just born with this interest in aging and wisdom. And when my dad, who was a physician, would volunteer in nursing homes, he would take me with him. One in particular, from when I was, I don't know, 6, 7. And I think he assumed it's a safe place. So I would wander the halls and no one told me to be scared. You know, there was this antiseptic smell, the white halls and the bluish fluorescence from the lights. There was all of that. It may come to mind as I, describe it to all of you. But what would happen is I'd meet people and they'd say, what's a nice girl like you doing in a place like this? And they'd think whatever I said was great. Anyway, I grew up with all these associations. So they were very positive, and I felt like, wow, here's a place where I leave, and modern elders like yourselves know the secret sauce, that the more we give, the more we get. So I, as a child, would leave feeling uplifted because I knew I made people happy. So in college, I was a recreational therapist in nursing homes. I thought I was going to be a nursing home administrator. I won't tell you the rest of all the story, but after undergrad, where I a psychology background and studied perceptions of the elderly, this is back in the early 1980s, I actually worked in the business world and then went and got my master's in gerontology, graduating in 1987. So that has been my journey. And then I became a coach because over time, again, without going into the whole story, clients would ask me, and I've been in the Bay Area for 35 years, if I would coach them. And this was back around 2000. And I didn't know what coaching was. And I have 3 kids. They're now in their late 20s. And at that time, they were middle school and younger. And the New Yorker part of my brain thought coaching sounded kind of soft. I'm ashamed to admit that as a full card-carrying coach now. But I didn't listen for a long time. And then I looked into coaching. And at that time, when I went back to school and got my credential, there were 0 master's level gerontologists and certified coaches in the country. So I started the Odyssey group, and we're the only ones who have focused on midlife, which forever people said, really? Midlife? What? What's interesting about that? And of course, I've always been really jazzed about it. Before we all became sexy, and we are, just here to tell you that. So, yeah, do you want to hear more about the Middlescence part?
Why don't we, yeah,
Now that you know my whole history, professional history.
why don't we unpack what you mean by Middlescence, but also what you mean by Middlescence and how you see that relating to modern elderhood?
Beautiful. So I had been coaching for about 10 years. And when our kids were growing up, we thought, what are we going to do when they leave? What's life going to be like? I was about 53 at the time, and my husband was a couple of years older. And so we thought, gap years are wasted on the young. Let's leave, uproot ourselves, replant in Italian soil. So in 2015, we moved to Italy for a year. And during that year, we were still working a little bit, but we were purposefully trying to feed ourselves with a different perspective and see where it took us. That is where I came up with, what have I learned in all these years being a gerontologist, being a coach? And I identified that, and you've all heard this part, the demographics. In 1900, our life expectancy was about 47. And today it's around 80, but actually all of us, we've survived this long. And most of our community of Middlescent modern elders are educated, pay attention to our diets, are engaged. So we're likely to live longer than that. So I put all that together, and I recognized that the years we've added, the almost 3 decades, aren't at the end. So it's not that you're going to be older longer with a slow, long decline. It's that we have these decades in the middle, but until you can name it, you can't really tame it. So I realized, wow, this reminds me a lot of something else. There is a time in our lives, and any of you who have children, where their hormones are changing and they're cray-cray, when their relationships are shifting and they're trying to figure out, like, where do they fit in? When they feel like, I'm not a little kid, but I'm not a grown-up either. And what do I want to do? And how do I make that happen? We now have a second adolescence. Our hormones change, all of those qualifiers. This time, what we're trying to do, and what Chip, and I think you're in here somewhere, is have this first midlife wisdom schools. How do we help people put their wisdom to work? First, cultivate it and know what it is, and then bring it to life. So that's kind of the genesis of it.
I love the idea of naming it to tame it. It's hysterical. And so you wrote a book on this theme. But today we're going to talk a little bit more about the 5 essential elements. Is that your next book? Is that brewing, or is that a different practice for you?
Okay, I'll let you all know a dirty little secret. I really don't like writing very much. It takes me away from the work that I love. So part of what I did in Italy was wrote a book proposal. And then I came back and realized I was gone for a year. My clients missed me. I missed them. There were people who had waited to work with me. If I was going to write a book, it would be a full-time endeavor. So I wrote a manifesto. So it's a $10. It really was a statement for change because I came back and they said, where's your book? So I did that. I may or may not get back to writing that book. I'm actually in the process of figuring that out right now. But what I've done is I have a body of work that is part of my coaching process, whether I'm working as an executive coach with people who are change makers, running companies or political movements or the like, or people who are in a life transition. And the quick story on the 5 essential elements, and the reason I want to share this part is this body of work is the foundation of how any middlescent, how any modern elder, and by the way, the quick relationship is this stage, this life stage of middlescence, if we embrace it fully, we name it, we can tame it, we work through it to become the modern elders that we want to be. It's a virtuous kind of cycle. So part of it is understanding how to cultivate our energy, because a lot of people, again, default thinking, can't do as much as I used to do. I just don't have the same energy. Yes, there's some parts that are a bummer of getting older, but the truth is we still have the energy if we are so conscious about cultivating it. And I learned this not from joy and sitting and reading and doing my research, but from painful experiences. So note to selves, the pain that we're all experiencing now, different times, different levels, different ways, will yield changes that will always be painful. And will also yield changes that we're going to look at and say, there were some gifts in that. So for me, my daughter, when she was 8, she's 28 now, and she has her full body. She's healthy, but she was diagnosed with a serious autoimmune disease. So as a mom, any other parents know, you'll do anything to help your child. So I stopped working and just learned everything I could about integrative medicine and became her navigator. And then I was diagnosed with a thyroid condition. And it was a very painful process to get my diagnosis because I didn't want to be a complainer. Self-care is selfish. So if I focused on myself and kept complaining to my doctor, who told me that she'd be tired if she did everything she thought I did, it held me back. So out of those experiences, I began to study energy and how we cultivate it. And over 10 years, I put that together. And just in the past couple of years, have created this body of work called the 5 Essential Elements. And the quiz that we've offered you today, it are the 5 areas that we can go through. But the quiz is meant to give you your baseline today. And so that's what we're going to talk about.
What's your baseline today? Did you run the quiz today?
I did. I just wrote a piece called The Boomerang Between Hope and Despair. And because I've been finding that, and there's not necessarily a rhyme or reason to it, but daily my energy is changing. Today, I'm with you, and right now I feel like I'm thriving, but I got up today and I felt blah. I took the quiz and I was blah. Yesterday I was thriving. So know this, wherever you are is where you're meant to be. And if you're thriving, Mazel Tov, it's Passover. I had to say that. Congratulations. And it's going to change. You're not going to stay there. And if you're sputtering or you're blah or you're depleted, you're not going to stay there either. There are ways, there are micro steps that you can take to help yourself. But today I've kind of been blah, I hate to say.
Ever a point where it's okay just to sit in blah? Just be like, you know what, today it's cool. I'm going to eat a quart of ice cream, watch the TV and just be blah.
Yeah.
That's okay. And not feel guilty about no micro steps?
No, no micro steps. If you don't feel it, I was going to get up today. Yesterday I got up, I was on my Peloton, and then I did yoga, and I was feeling it. And then I got a lot of work done and had some great client calls. And today I thought, oh, before this call, I'm going to do yoga. That just felt right. And I did my meditation. And then Teddy, thank you. That was a beautiful grounding meditation. So now I feel like, wow, I get double points for myself today. But yeah, the rest of it, wasn't feeling it. So this is really a time where it's important to be kind to yourself and not, oftentimes people are worried or they think we judge others or we're being judged by others.
Absolutely.
The toughest judges are the ones ourselves, on ourselves.
So step us through the 5 elements, and before we break out, step us through some of the micro steps in those elements as well, Bob, so that we can have a sense of, because it is kind of difficult to unpack. These are big ideas, right?
Yes. So this is really a foundational tool in coaching work that we work through. And by the way, there is an activation guide you can download, again, for free.
And you're going to let us know about that at the end of this call.
Same link. You just scroll down. I think you put your email in, and it gets sent to you as opposed to a straight download, because I don't have it available on a straight download. But here's the thing. I wanted to simplify the quiz. So here are the 5 areas. It starts, number 1, most foundational. You are what you eat. And exercise is not for people who are young and vital. If people are disabled, you need exercise. If we're exhausted, we still need to move our bodies in some way. So the most foundational part is exercise and nutrition. And you'll see that the questions we've asked there have to do with things that include, I have a healthy body image. And you might think, wow, she only asked 5 questions in this category of exercise and nutrition. Why is body image there? And it's because if you think of a Venn diagram with the intersecting circles, intersectionality in this case has to do with how does it come together for me so I can feel vital. And for many people, men and women, more so women than men, it comes up as body image. So that's one foundational area. The other is rest and renewal. Other versions of quizzes don't have this called out as a separate area. They put that exercise, nutrition, and sleep, boom. Rest and renewal is perhaps one of the most challenging things for people in our culture. A, as we get older, it's harder to sleep. B, stress impacts our sleep. And there are very few people who are Middlescence who are not stressed. They're caregivers, we're working, there are all kinds of, we're worried about the earth, we're worried about our future, our family's future. So stress affects it. So rest and renewal is as foundational as exercise and nutrition, but I call it out as a separate category because it deserves it. The third category I call focus and growth. And I will talk about micro steps, but I kind of want to level set what we're talking about. Focus and growth has to do with when people say, I'm having a senior moment. Okay, senior moments are an ageist comment because I have some friends who are 80 plus with excellent memories. What happens to us, in my super simplistic way, is we're like a filing system in our heads. You could use a digital analogy, but I'll use the filing system. So when I'm trying to come up with a name, inside I'm imagining these little fingers trying to go through all the files. So how do we clear the noise and the chaos so it's alphabetized, so it's in a way that we can access things quickly? Senior moments are not normal. Yes, there's a normality associated with slowing things down because we have to go through the files. But there are ways to focus and grow, and that will help you feel sharp. That's what that area is about. Joy and passion is the fourth area. I don't call it purpose, but you might look at these questions and think, oh, this has to do with purpose. I think we have a national obsession on the idea of purpose. And oftentimes, here's what happens. Clients say, I don't know what my purpose is. I'm not Mother Teresa. And they go off on this trip around not being good enough. Sometimes little p purpose, I'm going to go cut some flowers, bring them in my house, and I'll feel better. Or intermediate p purpose, I'm going to volunteer and bring those flowers to a neighbor. Or big P purpose, I'm going to be on a call with all of these people and try to share what I know to be true in service of their health. So don't judge it. Know what brings you joy. Know what gets you zhuzhed, what you're passionate about. Put those together and purpose will follow. That's that. And then the fifth area, no other assessment tool that I know of looks at time and effort as a category to your overall energy. And here's why we include it. People will say to me, okay, as a coach, can you work with me on time management? And I will say, no. And all the books you read on time management, it may be that they have great insights, but we can't manage time. Einstein, one of the books I tried to read when I was in Italy, The Theory of Relativity, went way over my head, but here's what I did get. Time warps. We cannot control time. Mm-hmm. All we can do is know how to control the energy we have in the time available. And so understanding how to use time to your benefit is life-changing for people. And that's what we tackle here. So that, Jeff, do you have any questions before I talk about the micro steps? So in breakout groups, people know what to do? What do you think?
Let's roll into micro steps and then we'll give people 5 minutes to just journal a little bit.
Okay. Especially now, but really all the time, try to find from your answer, say, I don't get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And I want to create a micro step. What's something doable? Then I'm going to choose that one and say this week, whether I ask Barb for some tips or I Google them or I reach out to this breakout group or what have you, I'm going to come up with 3 things this week that I'll experiment with to try to help my sleep. So rather than taking on all kinds of things, which will lead to more overwhelm than you may be feeling right now, find a couple of things and create one small step. So for focus and growth, for example, a couple of things there might be, don't multitask, bundle things. So while you're cooking dinner, we're all cooking at home more, have a headset on, and that's a good time to catch up with someone, rather than being on a call, typing out texts while you're doing. You don't want to separate your activities in a way that your brain doesn't work, but you want to bundle them. You want me to go through each area, Jeff? Or
do a couple more, and then we'll give them 5 minutes to journal. We're running up on time, so.
Oh, I know. Okay, joy and passion, because a lot of people get stuck there. If you're feeling, what can my purpose be during this time? Or I'm feeling blah and stuck and not joyful. Think about an important thing during this time is to exercise your option to relinquish toxic relationships. How's that? One micro step is when people are reaching out, because people who have time on their hands, but they're reaching out in ways that trigger you, don't go for it. Don't respond. Say this isn't a good time. Take care of yourself. And this is a beautiful reset time, for example, to do that. And you would be amazed the energy that can open up. How's that? Good?
Wonderful.
All right.
Okay. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to shift a little bit our timing. We're going to warp time as we were instructed by Barb and do some focused journaling for about 5 minutes. Actually, let's do it for about 4 minutes and look at what is a single thing, a single area and a single micro step that you might commit to this week. And then we'll come back together and I'll give you some instructions for your breakout group. Okay, so just take 4 minutes now and we will do that. If you haven't had a chance to look at the quiz, Leslie has dropped the quiz into the chat folder, so you can at least review some of the areas and just sort of identify somewhere that you might be able to sort of focus on in the next week.
And if anyone has a question, you can, right now, you can either message just to me or put it in the chat and I'll respond.
Beautiful. Take about another 30 seconds and then Zoe is going to drop us into our breakout groups. And what I'd love for you to do in your breakout groups is to share what you are looking to do this week, your micro step this week. And perhaps as you're discussing that, how you're going to actually achieve that. You know, how do you actually achieve these micro steps, micro goals? One of the things Barb asked us to think about during this breakout was who might be your accountability partner. So who might you work with to get this done? It might be someone you meet on the call. It might be someone that just in your life that you can work with to get that done as well. So it's essentially the same question you've just journaled on. What is that micro step you're going to take? Share it with your group. We've seen the science that sharing with your group is an important way of cementing that commitment, and also how you might help yourself to achieve it in terms of finding an accountability partner or other strategies. Okay?
Jeff,
go ahead, Barbara.
I'm getting tons and I'm trying to keep up. Good thing I'm a good typer, but I'm also trying to respond. I'm getting tons of people reaching out with some questions and a couple of questions that came out a few times. So let me just say it because many of you may be wondering, what the heck does it mean? Think strategically. And I want to just say why it's important and what it means. What it means is we tend to get up and say, if I have a to-do list and can check the box, especially right now when there's not a lot that I can feel like I'm accomplishing, I'll feel good. When we lose the ability to think generatively, which means, what do I care about? Not just what do I feel like having for dinner, what do I care about right now? And how can I take the challenge of this time and get some clarity? And then in the regular world, when we're working, a lot of people I work with, they're leading companies and they're saying, I'm supporting everyone else. I'm supporting all the teams. I'm putting out fires, but they're supposed to be leading, which means thinking at a broader level. So whether it's personally or professionally, that has a lot to do with the leadership you bring to your life. And someone else asked, and this is very important, about the 90 minutes of work time. When I talk about using the energy you have and the time available, where the research is from. So it is based on research. I have to look up, I don't have them up the top of my head where that was from, but when we work in up to 90-minute increments, after that, our attention falls apart. So even if you're working on a project at your desk or you're running a meeting, people should get up, take a break. It could be 3 or 4 minutes, but you do something to break it up and go back to it. That's what that's about. Okay, I think for now, those came up a number of times. And I'm happy, after today's call, email me and we'll make a time and we'll connect and I'll answer any questions. I don't want anyone to feel like they don't know how to utilize this.
Thank you, Barb. Okay, so make it so.
Thank you, Barb. All right, everybody. You are going to be split up, making it so. All righty.
Be sure to accept going into the breakout room. It's going to ask you, join breakout room. Hit the blue button. Awesome.
Fantastic. I don't think we're going to give them that much time just because we're running on time. So I would say 7 more minutes. So,
Okay.
Then we'll have a few minutes for questions, Q&A at the end.
Yeah.
I've got to go run and get my cord. I'll be right back. Yeah, I think it's more important. I'm getting, wow, tons of questions. So I wonder if we should have people ask questions, or if I should go through these, or I just offer people.
Why don't you pick up a couple of the direct questions that you got, Bob, and just decide which ones you want to sort of answer. We'll have about 5 minutes at the end. So we're pretty tight on timekeeping, just because.
I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, if you just pick out 2 or 3 the ones that you like. Teddy's going to announce his sit tomorrow in about, not now, but in a minute. Okay.
And actually, I wanted, maybe even more important, I wanted to end with an energy thing.
Okay. So I'll tell you what, Bob, you just drive the last few minutes.
All right. So I'm going to take some notes from what people were asking so I can quickly address that.
Yeah, it's an hour. I'm hoping it's Danny Friedland, but I haven't got a confirmation. So,
And Barbara, your email, barbara@barbarawaxman.com, right?
Mm-hmm.
Barbara, are you really sure you want everyone emailing you?
Yeah.
I know.
Well, somebody on the chat is asking, and there's.
How about we just give it directly to the people that asked for her email? I think it's Morris Wang.
I mean,
Oh, yes, I'll do that. Yeah, I can see.
I just would hate for you to get deluged with emails, Bob. If someone wants your email, they'll ask us and we'll give it to them.
Plus, they have your website from the
True.
link. Hey, Zoe, I have a question. When they're in breakouts, I'm watching the participant number. So when they're in breakouts, it doesn't show the total participants. Is it just on the host or?
I can see, no, it only shows us 7, but our breakout rooms, it doesn't actually give you a total count, weirdly enough.
From a data perspective, oh, not a data, but from an observational perspective, we seem to lose between 10 and 25% after the breakouts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We started at 88. It went to 75 at journal and then 68 right before breakouts, but I haven't seen it now.
Yeah. We might have to revisit the breakouts if people aren't enjoying them. Or you know what I mean, if there are a reason for people to leave, maybe we should think about how we revisit that time.
I'm hearing a lot of really positive things about the breakouts because it is small and they can actually apply the learning. But I think some people are busy and they have to get back to work and they want the content and then they scoot.
Yeah, that's fair.
What if breakout were an optional add-on? So you got to have your opening and your closing, and then it became, there's a 15-minute breakout for those, that's an expectation. Because I've been on the other calls and it does feel kind of a little deflating when people come back, but then it's a much smaller group rather than.
I agree, Bob. I really like that idea. So just run the whole hour meeting and say, if you'd like to do a breakout, we'll host it at the end for 15 minutes. Yeah, that's genius. I like it. It's better. Because then we do our question and answer. It feels more joined up. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was on a call and I needed to leave before the breakout, I felt guilty. And we don't, and I may not be the only one, but I had to go.
Yeah.
Right.
So people might end up feeling, oh, I don't want to go on a call because they'll see that I'm leaving before the break.
Obligated and that, yeah. Or they may not be in a place where they can actually,
Yeah, we've had people who say that they're like, oh, I'm at work or whatever, I can't chat. So
that's a great idea.
Zoe, I didn't mean to ignore you before. What was your score? Did you take it?
22, I think. Yeah, I took it. I've been, my boyfriend has been very, very good at making sure that I'm taking care of myself. Which is good. Did you say 1 minute, Jeff? You want me to bring everyone back?
Start bringing them in. Yeah. I think.
Done. They will be closed in 60 seconds.
And Jeff, did we get Danny for next week? We usually will announce who's next.
I'm Danny tomorrow. I couldn't get him on the phone earlier.
We can. Welcome back. Coming back. Again, gallery view is awesome for this because then everybody starts popping back in. Penelope, the way your picture frame, you look like you have a crown on behind you, the picture behind your head. So cute. Welcome.
I know somebody just mentioned that, but it's my son, see?
Oh, it's
a son.
And a double vision.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Hi, we're back. Thanks, Leslie. This is great. This is so cool how this works.
How were your breakouts? Good.
Yes.
Good.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Okay, Bob, you got a whole bunch of questions. Why don't you just sort of run through those in the last few minutes, and then we will close.
Beautiful. So thank you. There were tons of questions. Thank you for those. I can't get to all of them, but there are a few that stood out that more than one of you asked. One had to do with, this all sounds good, but how do I reduce stress? And then a few of you said that in different ways. So let me address that a little bit. One is exactly what Teddy took us through. It is available to you all the time, and that is your breath. You know, Teddy was sharing that we breathe all the time, but wow, what a difference it makes when we're conscious about it. And you can lower your heart rate by breathing in for 4, holding your breath for 2 or 3, and then breathing out for 7, and do that for a series of times, and you will feel your heart rate slow down. So one is find your breath for reducing stress. Another is, what are your triggers? Do you know what your stress triggers are? And can you write them down so that for each one, back to, if you can name it, you can tame it, you can create a game plan. And that's what you do with a coach, or if you can do it yourself, but that's a start. And then the third thing I'll mention is, what's worked for you before when you've been stressed? What's calmed you down before? And try that if it's worked. Something else that came up is, okay, Barb, how do we have tech-free time when this is what is available to us? And I feel your pain, but I also feel the pain in the beginning of this whole crisis. I'd start the morning with the TV on, and I'd be on calls all day. So one is, don't watch as much TV, read a book, go old school, don't watch or read it on a device. Do things like that. Be out in nature more than ever. If it's cold, bundle up. If it's rainy, get galoshes out if you still have them. Who's worn galoshes? I've been watching movies from the 1940s. Everyone's wearing galoshes. So those are some of the things. Go old school. What'd you do when you grew up? Get a paint by numbers set, but turn off your devices. And then a couple of people asked about Gunther. For those of you who don't know what I'm referring to, there are a couple of stories that I shared in the Middlescence manifesto. Gunther is now on to his next gig, which may be in the next book. I don't have time to tell you about his story, but he is on to his next gig. The last thing I wanted to do, which will just take a minute, is share with you before we leave a different kind of energy that is also available to you. So if you can sit in your chair with your feet on the floor, you've done the breathing thing. So I'm going to help you pull out a different kind of energy. I'm going to ask you to start rubbing your hands together. I'm going to do it with you as fast as you can, really hard. So it's like you're trying to start a campfire. Harder, keep going, harder. Are your hands getting hot? Anyone? Shake your head. Okay. All right, now hold your hands 2 millimeters apart. Stop, and hold 2 millimeters and breathe. Anyone feel a vibration? 2 millimeters. Now take your hands 3 millimeters and 4 out. And now in. Teeny bit. Anyone feel a little gluey? Shake your head so I can see. I'm going to look through the gallery. If you can feel something going on between your hands. Okay, that is the energy of the universe. I know it sounds kooky. I'm from New York. Remember, I told you, but it's true. I studied Qigong with a master. This is also always available. When you are not grounded, stop, breathe, and access the energy that does exist, even when we can't really feel it. And with that, I want to thank you for having me. And I just wish all of you health. And if I can be of support, I'd be happy to.